Do you ever notice yourself feeling blah? Welcome to this edition of Tuesday Talks with Twyla. So, feeling blah is actually a defined emotion. It's part of the emotional list, it's a legit feeling. And so, I wonder, do you ever notice yourself feeling this way? Because it's one of those emotions that's I want to say like right in the middle, right? We're not depressed, but we're not excited. We're like right in the middle. We're in the neutral zone in this like kind of like the miserable maybe, right? We were just talking about that not too many weeks ago. It's just this stagnant area where we just kind of almost lack emotion, right? So, of course, I went to the Googles because that's always my favorite thing to do. And it's recognized as an informal feeling. So it's recognized and it's considered informal, but it's legit feeling, right? And it's described as low energy, lack of motivation, boredom, sense of stagnation or emptiness, lethargy, general dissatisfaction. I can't say the word, dissatisfied, basically. You know what I'm trying to say. So it's unfocused, indifferent, or detached. I love that series of describing what this feels like, right? Unfocused, indifferent, right? You're just like neutral and detached. Now, this is interesting because this is what I want to focus on is that detachment. Because I think what happens when we feel this way, because we're detached from the things around us, but we're also detached from ourselves. And this is huge because the rest of the information that I found is it's often a temporary response to monotony, so the same old, stress, or lack of purpose. And I thought, that's interesting. I'm detached. I lack purpose, right? I don't have focus and I'm just indifferent. I feel blah, right? So it's also frequently used to describe a funk or feeling understimulated. So as I'm reading through here, like it really describes what this feels like if you actually tune in to yourself when you feel blah. But I bet that it's not often that you do tune in, right? Because this is just one of those kind of neutral emotions that doesn't always get our attention. But what it does is it keeps us stuck because we're detached and we have monotony and we just have the same old and we're feeling that lack of purpose and that detachment or that disconnection. And so we're just like floating without any stimulus, without any excitement, without motivation, right? We're just like la la land, right? But we're not productive. We're not moving. We're not growing, expanding. Nothing's exciting, right? It's the opposite of all of that. And I love the frequently used to describe a funk, right? Because I think if you just feel blah, you wouldn't necessarily go to, I'm in a funk. But if you feel blah for a while, you're probably in a funk, right? Which just means you're feeling blah fairly often. And so I wanted to talk about this because I noticed that I was feeling blah. And I thought, I wonder if that's a real emotion. I wonder if there's something else there, or am I just feeling blah? But what I noticed, and the reason that I wanted to talk about this is it's, I noticed that it was there, but it was so subtle. It didn't get my attention. It didn't like come out or get expressed a certain way, right? It just like exists. It's like being stuck. It's like just existing. It's very neutral and it's neutral in that I guess it's not like super negative, but it's not super positive. So it's like in the middle. So when I say neutral, it's kind of like that. But I would argue that it's not neutral in that it's not positive and not negative, because I would say it definitely has a slant towards the negative, because feeling in a funk or feeling blah isn't a positive thing. In that, it's not progressive. It doesn't have us doing things. It doesn't have us showing up to our life, right? When I noticed I was feeling blah, I was asking myself, like, why aren't I doing this? Or why didn't I do that? Right? Like for me, it was a specific kind of um, curiosity about a behavior. And I was like, well, because I just feel blah. Like I just didn't feel like it. I don't know. I felt just bleh. So I thought, that's interesting. And do we recognize this as an emotion, right? I guess even if it's an informal emotion, it exists, right? It's something real that we are experiencing. And when it comes to emotion, I always want to encourage us to tap into that, get curious about it, and like make friends with it, right? Like, what is this blah feeling? Where is it coming from? What are the thoughts behind it? And what does blah feel like for me and my body? Because for some of us, maybe it feels just detached and floating and not motivated and just kind of like existing. But for some, it might feel very painful. It might feel very uncomfortable. It might be a significant negative emotion for us. So everyone is unique. And so I just want you to notice and then describe it. What does it feel like for me? Where do I feel it in my body? Like for me, it's everywhere, right? Like some emotions like are high in our chest or, in our belly, or our hearts are racing, or, it feels like, it's high in like our chest, neck, and head, right? Like different emotions can feel differently. But for blah, I just was like, feels like it's everywhere. Like it felt like a blanket on me, kind of like one of those weighted blankets, right? Like just holding me down, just keeping me here from like, I'm just floating, but also like I'm just floating right here. I'm not like, bouncing or doing anything major or sudden movements or excitement. Like I'm just like weighted down. But it was everywhere in my body. And it was just the same level of just almost like nothingness. Like it wasn't feeling anything of significance because I wasn't feeling like super negative or angry or like scared or worried, but I wasn't feeling excited or motivated or like purposeful or like growth and expansion, And so I want to make sure that we get curious about this and ask these questions and tap into it like a significant emotion, because as we've talked about numerous times, and just last week, the different types of discomfort, one has us just staying blah, and one has us progressing and expanding and moving the needle and achieving things, accomplishing things, going after things, right? Even if we don't reach the goal or accomplish the thing, we are moving the needle. We're progressing, right? And that's different than the stagnation or the staying or the stuckness and the blah, right? It when you imagine the difference, I would argue it's significant, because this path is fraught with growth and expansion and exciting things and maybe scary things, maybe new things and different things, right? But there's like variety here, there's growth here, there's accomplishment and goals and intentions and desire and dreams and potential. All of that exists over here, not in the blah, because the blah doesn't have any of that. It just has like a lot of nothingness, a lot of like disconnect, indifferent, right? Like that word, just that word alone, like it's just, right? It's like take it or leave it. It's kind of nothingness. It's just existing. And so I would argue that it is significant, because that's not a great way to live. It's not a great way to exist on this planet, to experience this life. And we might not even be realizing that it's happening. And I know for me, I didn't notice it at the time. I noticed it kind of after the fact as I was doing like a daily reflection, like, how was my day? What did I do? Like, how was my week? And I was like, "God, I find myself just feeling blah." And when I was asking, like, first of all, I was curious about, like, well, what is this? Like, is blah, like, is that a real feeling? And like, what is it? What does it feel like? Where do I feel it in my body? And then where is it coming from? What are the thoughts I'm thinking? And when I was doing the definition, I was like, okay, I can see where this might be coming from. If you're feeling like you have lack of purpose and detachment, emptiness, right? Even the low energy, I feel like that can be something that's like a physical expression, a physical experience, right? Like you just are low energy. Like, I'm tired, I didn't get enough sleep, or, I'm wrestling with, maybe I'm fighting off, a cold or something like that. Like, my body is just lacking energy or low in energy for whatever reason. But that can just make you feel blah. So is that just a physical experience I'm having, or is there some mental construct behind it? Is there some thoughts that are fueling it? Because it's not a thought, I think, if I'm actually lacking sleep and my body is tired, that's a physical experience. The emotion comes from the thoughts I'm thinking. So this one can be tricky because I think that's how I noticed this, because I thought, well, I'm just tired, right? And I'm doing some different supplements, and I'm dealing with some like health concerns. And so some days I do just lack energy. And so on those days, it's like, do I just feel blah because I get really tired after I eat, or like I have a good reason for being tired? I didn't sleep well, or I was up a lot in the night. Sometimes the dog has to go out like 3 times in the middle of the night. Like, is there a legitimate reason for the low energy, or am I having thoughts fueling this? And it's a little bit of both. I'll be honest. Sometimes it is just like low energy. I'm tired. I'm physically experiencing that low energy. And that can just, come with that blah feeling, right? Like, I'm tired. And so like I have lack of focus and I'm understimulated and all of that because I just, I'm tired. Or what about the times where there's thoughts fueling it? Thoughts like the monotony, the doing the same thing over and over, and stress, certainly from different things, which stress is something that we do, not something that we have. And so I want to normalize that, because if we think of it as something that we do, then we think about it as something that we cannot do. We can fix it, we can change it. But when we think stress is something that happens to us, which for a long time, that's what I thought. I am stressed. I wore it like a badge. I wore it like a label. My job is stressful. My life is stressful. And I did not ever consider that maybe stress is from what I'm thinking and I could change that. And so when I first heard this, that stress is not something that happens to us, it's something that we do, I was like, oh, then I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do stress, right? If I can catch it and I can be intentional with my thinking, I'm not going to do stress anymore. I'm not going to think things that make me stressed, right? And that takes some work, because a lot of that thinking is patterned thinking. It's what we've developed based on our circumstances or our environment. And so it's programmed thinking that just happens, and we have to, unravel that and reprogram. Not impossible. It just takes a little more effort, right? But recognizing that it is something that we can change and control. But the monotony and the lack of purpose. Okay, so if I am feeling blah and I'm feeling like I lack purpose, hmm, I'm feeling lack of purpose because of the thoughts I'm thinking. I don't live a purposeful life. I'm not showing up in a purposeful way. What am I even doing here? Is this all that life is supposed to be? Right? All of that is tied to our purpose and how we feel about our experience on this planet. Because if we feel like we should be living our purpose, or what is our reason for even being here? Is this all there is to life? When you feel that way, you're thinking thoughts like that, right? You're thinking thoughts in alignment with that, creates a pretty blah feeling. And it can put you into a funk when you're thinking that way regularly, right? And so as I was going through this, I was like, yeah, there's a little bit of both. But for sure, if I'm creating this blah feeling, I want to get a handle of this. I want to take a look at, what am I thinking and why? Where's that coming from? Where did I get like this thought or this belief, these mental constructs that I'm carrying around? What is that? And I think this is one that can be something that can change from day to day. This day, it might be this thing that we either picked up or we latched onto, or if you've watched my Tuesday talks about picking up a penny, like we just sometimes a thought is presented or a belief is presented, and we take it and we keep it and we engage in it. We pick up the penny and we put it in our pocket. That's a metaphor for latching onto that thought or that idea and then keeping it and engaging in it, even when it doesn't serve us, right? And I love the penny analogy because, right, it's a penny, it's 1 cent, which apparently they're doing away with. So it's very insignificant, right? But yet we hang on to it. We make it mean something of significance and it affects us. So these are things that, like, what is there? What is behind this? So one day it might be, something that happened with a coworker or an interaction with my spouse, or, whatever it is. Or I wake up just thinking I should be doing more, or is this all there is to life? And then I feel blah. And then it's like, well, if this is all there is, then I'm not very motivated to do something new or try something different, put myself out there, put myself into that intentional discomfort, right? Because I think what happens is we kind of convince ourselves that, like, even though we don't want this to be all there is to life, we kind of convince ourselves that maybe it is. And then we're not motivated to change that, right? And so, again, just like last week, we just unintentionally choose that discomfort that is just stagnant and stuck. And I mean, it's blah, right? And so I thought this was interesting spin on like what we talked about last week, because it's that other side of the options, basically, right? If you think of it that way. And if it's based on something we're thinking, we want to get a handle on that, right? If we're physically tired, right, then we need to deal with that with a physical response. We need to rest, we need to slow down, we need to fuel our body, fuel our mind, like all of those things, right? We need to physically respond to that. But if it's what we're thinking, we need to respond to that differently. And recognizing it as an emotion and tapping in, connecting with it, acknowledging it, allowing it to be there. Like, I feel blah. And what does this feel like for me? It feels like this weighted blanket on my body. I feel it everywhere. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't know why it's here. Like, what's going on for me? What am I thinking when I'm feeling this way? And then, maybe reflect back, like, when did it start? For me, sometimes when I'm asking these questions, I have a hard time finding the answers, like point blank. And so what I try to do is almost do uh, like a sneak attack on it. And so I try not to try too hard so I don't feel like I'm interrogating my brain. I'm just, opening up the opportunity to explore, like, what all's there. So, like, when did this start and what happened that day, or what could have prompted some different thinking, and what might that be? And just getting curious about it and connecting with the emotion, what we're feeling in our body, and asking those questions and figuring it out, and then deciding, why am I thinking that? Could I think something different that would be more aligned with what's true for me, for what's really true, right? Because sometimes I think we tell ourselves that, like, this is true, and we believe it because we're feeling it. So it must, like, it's almost like it's a self-validation, but we don't want to feel this way, and we don't have to. So we don't have to keep it, right? We discovered it, we build our awareness, we talked about that, and then what do we do next with it? And that was kind of my thing was, yeah, I would just recognize, yeah, I'm feeling blah. And then that's it. I was just wearing it like the badge for the day. Today's a blah day. Nothing exciting, just another blah day. And then I was like, is blah like an emotion? Like, is this something I should be paying attention to? And then, right? Like, what's the next step after awareness? I'm feeling blah. Let's connect with this. Let's figure out what's going on. And let's decide about the thoughts that I'm thinking that's causing this, and maybe choose something different. Maybe take a look at some thoughts that I've adopted as beliefs, that I've been believing, that I've been telling myself, that I've been living in accordance to. Is this serving me? Is this what I really want to think and believe? Is there something I could think instead that would have me feeling motivated? That would tap into that desire for my life to have this experience instead? And when you do that, you're like, well, of course, if I could feel excited and motivated and be doing things and learning and expanding, I would choose that over just sitting over here feeling blah and feeling like I'm just existing, feeling indifferent, right? Wow. I mean, that's not comfortable, right? But it's common. And especially if we've been feeling it for a while. And I think blah is one of those emotions that it's like, remembering, or it's like, oh, I know this, right? It's comfortable and common because we just know it, because I think it happens more regularly than we even realize. For me, for sure, because I was like, when I started to think back, like, how often do I feel like this? It's like, wow, quite a bit. And it's one of those things that, especially if it starts in the morning and I wake up feeling blah, like sometimes I'll be like, well, what was I dreaming about last night? Or what was the first thoughts in my mind in the morning? Or what was I worrying about or stressing about? And what could have like set my foot off that way for the start of the day? And then I realized that, like, a lot of times, like I said, when I realized I was just feeling blah and I was just accepting it, I was having the awareness, and then I wasn't doing anything with it. I was just owning it, like, yep, I feel blah today. And I think the physical attributes, like, I think that can make it confusing for us, and it makes it easier for us to just, like, it just is what it is, right? Like, I just feel blah, like I must be tired, I must just be, lacking sleep, lacking energy. Like, it's just one of those days. It's just a low day. And then we feel it all day, right? We just live there. We just wallow there. And when I describe it that way, it feels powerful in that I'm choosing to wallow there. I've sat down in the puddle, right? Like, I'm not just walking through, like, oh, I feel blah, and then I keep walking and I keep progressing or moving or changing or, changing my focus. I sit down in the puddle and I sit there all day, right? So I noticed that, like, on the days that I felt blah, I felt it all day. Or once I felt it, it kind of just lingered for the rest of the day. I just kind of took it on as that's just how I'm feeling. But I wasn't doing anything about it. I wasn't getting curious. I wasn't exploring, and I wasn't giving myself an opportunity to address it and make changes. I I just was letting it be. And so I thought, I bet there are others out there feeling blah. Because, right? Like I just, and then I started to think about like all the different times, like, oh, how are you today? Oh, like, like, right. A lot of times you'll get some feedback like that, or I'm fine, right? And you can tell like, oh, I'm fine, like it's a more positive fine. And then sometimes it's like a blah fine. And it's pretty common. So I thought, yeah, there's others feeling this, but maybe not even realizing that it's, even if it's informal, it's a legit emotion that should be addressed like any other emotion. And it gives us that power and that control over what we're experiencing, which is what we need in order to make changes. And that's where I was falling down, right? I was noticing this, but I was just accepting it. And I wasn't getting curious. I wasn't becoming aware and then taking the next step. I just was like, oh yeah, I feel blah today. And then I just confirmed it and then showed up that way. I showed up blah to everything that day. Everything, every interaction, every like task I had or like plans or scheduled things that I have, I just showed up like blah, right? And I can tell you that like the productivity when I showed up the things that way was right, like the low energy. It was like the slow path. It was a lot of like spinning my wheels, just like sitting and thinking, like really having to like connect with whatever it was that I was supposed to be doing. And that was like part of it. Like my reflection was like, yeah, it's almost like you just like almost wasted the day, right? You acknowledged that you felt blah, you didn't do anything about it, and you just wallowed in it. You just sat in the puddle all day and you didn't like even the stuff that you worked on, like, it was mediocre. It wasn't motivated, moving the needle, doing big things. It was just like, did it a little bit, barely paying attention, like very disconnected, very detached, very indifferent, unfocused, right? Like all of that. Like that's how I showed up to everything the whole day. It's like, maybe I could change that. Maybe I could become aware of it and get curious about it and decide something different and change the rest of my day. And acknowledging like whatever it was, whatever the thoughts were that came up that prompted that emotional experience of blah and doing that work with it. And anytime there's that work with our emotions, we want to just slow down and take that time to connect with it so that this is the biggest thing, like, so that it doesn't keep coming up. Because if there's a thought behind it, if there's something there, it's going to keep coming up until you resolve it, until you work through it, until you allow it, acknowledge it, give it the attention that it needs. It will just keep coming up until you do that. So I've given you the example numerous times of the panic I would feel in the morning, like it would be the first thing that would wake me up. And until I actually just tapped into that, connected to it, like really acknowledged and allowed it there, and, said to myself, I feel this way and it's okay. And just did that quietly in bed in the morning while my husband's asleep next to me, just thinking through that in my mind. It's the exact same thing with the blah, so it doesn't keep coming back. What are the thoughts behind it? What is coming up? And this one I think is tricky because like when you think about thoughts that are indifferent or detached, this can be tricky because if we're feeling detachment or indifference, we're not connecting that we're having thoughts that are creating this emotion, because we feel so disconnected from everything. And that's why turning in internally and tapping in and connecting and aligning with what's true for us and listening to our true desires and all of that is how we're going to find the answers here. And that's the opposite of the indifferent and the detached, right? We have to reconnect. We have to do that connection and feel that connection and work through that. Like, okay, I feel you. I feel the blah. I feel the indifference. I see you. And it's okay. It's okay to feel blah. It's okay to feel detached. But also, like what else, right? Like what else can I think? And how can I focus? How can I redirect my thoughts after I've worked through and allowed the emotion and connected to it so that it can work its way through? And I can choose some different thoughts. I can be intentional about redirecting. Because remember, when I talked about what was happening early in the morning with the panic, the thoughts I was thinking, I was connecting that to how I was feeling, and I don't want to be feeling that way. So I need to change the thoughts. And I was just thought swapping, and I wasn't connecting to the emotion. And until I did, it just kept happening. And then once I connected, I honestly can't remember. I think maybe I did it, had to do it one more time. And that was it, maybe two. And I just say that because I just feel like it's too easy for it to have just been one time. And I do remember doing it more than once, right? Like that's it. I suffered with this for morning after morning after morning for lots of days in my stressful job. And then when it kept happening after, I was like, something's gotta change here. And then one of my coaches was like, this is what we need to do with emotions. And I went, oh, I need to try that, right? It wasn't the first thought that I had or idea in the morning when I'm laying in bed. It's like, I just want to shut my brain off. I just want this to go away so I can go back to sleep. But it needed my attention. And once I gave it my attention and said it was okay and allowed it to be there, it didn't have to come back every day. And there are times just out of the blue that'll happen again. And there's times where I know right away, like, oh, I feel panic. I feel terrified. I feel scared. And it's okay. I'm laying in my bed safe. It's okay. But I feel this and it's real. And this is what it feels like for me. It feels like a pit in my stomach. It feels kind of like terror. It feels like I'm very anxious. I'm very scared. I'm very nervous. It feels very uncomfortable. It feels very scary. But I'm okay. I'm safe and I'm okay. And this emotion can be here and I can allow it and I'll be okay. And that's what it needs. That's what helps it work through so it doesn't have to keep coming up. It's the antidote, right? It's why it's there. It's the whole reason for being is to get your attention. And that's what we have to do is connect to it and allow it and tell ourselves, remind ourselves that it's okay, that we're safe, even from a feeling like blah, which in my mind was just like, really? I mean, it's blah. It's not a big deal, right? It's not being depressed and it's not, being super excited, but it's like, right? It's like, it's not even a big deal. But it is because we don't want to feel this every day. We don't want to stay in this stuckness. We don't want to sit in this puddle all day. We don't want to stay in the lack of motivation. We certainly don't want to stay in monotony, in that hamster wheel. And we don't want to stay in that lack of purpose because that's the opposite of that path where there's progress and expansion and growth and new things and different things, but intentions and possibility and dreams and desires. That's what's all over here. And we can accept what's there and think through and work through and redirect our focus and choose something exciting and motivating and like from a realm of possibilities, right? It's just that should be exciting. I don't have to stay here. I don't want to stay here. I want that over there. What does that look like? What do I think when I'm on that track, when I'm on that path? What am I thinking? And then, what kinds of thoughts can I think that fuel that excitement and the motivation and the intention, right? And we can look at it that way and we can take control over it. And the last thing I want to leave you with is believing that it can be that easy, right? That it can be just allowing it one time and everything shifts. Instead of believing that it's going to be hard, there's this whole new programming, there's all of this work to be done, like it's going to take a lot to work through this. No, right? It will be if that's what you believe. But if you believe it can be easy, and I don't know that I believed one way or the other. Going into the first time I did this work for myself, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't have any belief around it. I just knew that I was going to try something different with it. And from that, I was like, this can be easy. This shift can be one time. It can just be doing this work once. It might be more than once, right? Like I know it was more than once, but it definitely wasn't more than 3. And it certainly didn't happen every day, right? Like it was even a break in between before it happened again. So it can be easy. And when we believe it will be, and that this shift can come quickly, it will. That's like the best thing, right? Like we create our experience from our thoughts and our beliefs. And even this, I've been asking myself, I believe that's true. I know that's true. I know that's how we function as humans. And yet, I have even evidence that it can be easy and it can be simple and it can be fast. And yet, there are times where I was like, well, it can't be that easy. It can't be that simple, right? It's like, why do I let myself think that? I don't want to think that it won't be easy. I don't want to think that it'll take a long time. I want to think that it'll be quick and easy and it'll shift quickly. Okay, let's believe that instead and let's do the work and let's see what happens. And let's believe in all of it because that's the power behind it. That belief is when we connect and we align and we can make these things true for ourselves by thinking a certain way, that's what we create in our lives. And that is an amazing experience on this planet. And that's what I hope for every single one of us. So if you find yourself feeling blah, let's tap in. Let's find out. Let's get curious. What's going on there? Am I just actually tired, physically having an experience in my body? Or am I having an emotion that's coming from the way I'm thinking? And what do I want to do about that? What's there? How can I allow it? How can I describe it? What is this like for me? And then, right, do the work. Like, then what? Do I want to keep thinking this? Do I want to keep feeling this way? Do I want to just sit in this puddle all day? Or do I want to shift some of this? And remember, it doesn't have to be that we're either sitting in the puddle or we're running a sprint, right? It can just be that we're not sitting in the puddle. We're just moving at maybe a slow and steady pace, but we're just not sitting in the puddle. We're not feeling blah. We're moving. We're progressing. We're being intentional. And that can be a slow and steady pace and still be progress and growth and expansion. It doesn't have to be this huge sweep of the pendulum from sitting in the puddle to running quickly. It can just be slow and steady, and it can be whatever we want it to be. Maybe when we realize this shift is like, no, and I want to move very quickly. I want to set my intentions or my goals, or I want to decide what I want to accomplish. I'm going to go after it. I'm going to go all in, and here I go. It can be. That's the beauty of all of this. It can be whatever we want it to be, as long as we believe it's possible. And that belief can shift in an instant. And that's an amazing thing. All right, if you're feeling blah, let's take a look. Let's get curious and figure out what is going on for us. And do I want to keep feeling blah? I know I don't. It's not my favorite feeling for sure. It makes me tired. I think that like sometimes when I get like that, then I just, right? I want to sit and do nothing. I wallow in it. And I don't want to wallow in an emotion like blah, right? If I'm going to live in an emotion, I want it to be excitement and motivation and something that's got me moving and shaking and doing some stuff, right? That's what I want to wallow in. And that's a choice. So I just have to be intentional about making a different choice. And that's what's available to you as well. I hope you have an amazing week. I will catch you next week.